Hey YouTubers, in the last video I discussed what kind of place I want, what I'm saving for. I'm living pretty frugal here in this condo. It's paid off. I did finished paying it off last year, and my plan is that I'm saving about 1,500 a month, and my plan is to take that savings, add what I saved before I paid the condo off, and then basically use that money as a big down payment on the house that I want. Then I'll sell this condo and then hopefully pay off like 90% of that mortgage, then or maybe even 100% of it, and then the only thing I would have to pay from then on is like property tax, utilities, and upkeep of the place. And I told you how I wanted to make it sort of a homestead, in sort of a suburban homestead situation. Um, there are, and then I'd like to actually rent out a couple rooms to people who might be open to the idea of like homestead living. People who wouldn't mind going out to the chicken coop and grabbing the eggs, things like that. Now, roommates, I've lived in a situation with roommates several times before. It's a very efficient way to live. Mostly I did it when I was younger, like in my 20s and early 30s, and it's a pretty good situation that can turn real bad. Now, I've seen roommate situations go bad with some friends of mine. Basically, one person liked things clean, and he would clean, and then he'd clean, and then after a month or so, everybody else apparently kind of slacked off on cleaning a little bit because he was doing so much, and then he got disgusted, and then he stopped cleaning, and then the place became like a factory farm pigsty, and it was just bad in there. I'd go over to visit sometimes and turn around and get the hell out of there. So there are pitfalls, and then of course there are sometimes situations where somebody might have like anger or something, and like they might be raised voices and all that, and then you would have to have a way of getting rid of the people who are causing problems. Um, all of that is like it's just part of making a good roommate situation work. There have been places where people have lived, and one roommate was so bad, pretty soon people would move out and move out and move out until the only person left was the person who owned the place and the problem person. So I'm going to have to work out ways of dealing with that. What I've got right now is sort of a sketch on how a roommate situation could work. Um, Now, once I own that place and have it paid off and all that good stuff, I won't need a lot of money. So I'll be able to be fairly generous with the rent, but I'm not going to be generous with the rent right off. You see, the idea is to charge competitive rent for a room or a house shared situation, and then add in a sort of a system where there would be jobs that, of course, need to be done on a regular basis. Things like cleaning the bathroom, right? It has to be done in a regular interval, otherwise it becomes really scary in there. Then, of course, cleaning the kitchen. And I would probably arrange these as half-hour blocks of time, call it point 0.5. That's kind of the way we run the time card situations at most of the diesel shops that I've worked in. So basically, then of course you're going to have situations where there are some jobs that people won't like to do. Like let's say a really nasty one, like cleaning the chicken coop. Okay, now um, you would have like a couple of roommates, right? And then say, I'd like to do this, figure out how to do this on a computer, right? So that each person would have their own sort of time card, right? And then they could actually select with if they have like a half hour or something, they could say, oh, the bathroom task is now available. Anybody who's here could pick it. So they would pick it by grabbing it and dragging it down onto their I guess you could call it their time card or whatever. And then they would go ahead and do that, and it would be taken care of. And then, of course, another person would say, oh, I'm going to clean the kitchen, right? Now, I would be part of the group, so because everything I do, somebody else doesn't do, right? And so basically, I would probably pick, um, let's say, lawn, like mowing the front lawn. Now, now let's say time goes by and the chicken coop job wasn't done, right? And there would be a half hour or maybe an hour or something allowed to do that. And but the thing is, if it was late, right? If it hadn't been done for like an additional week, right? Then that would increase to a full hour, and then basically the equation would work so that um, in the future, or even right then, if somebody wanted to pick it, then it would be worth an hour, so they could grab it like so. And then at the end of the month, it would be rent time, right? Um, and at that point, they would have their normal rent that would be due, and at that point, they would then the computer would add it all up for me, how much they did, and that would basically subtract from whatever their rent is that they owe. So that would be um, normal rent, then minus, say, and call it maybe 10 or 12 bucks an hour, um, and then all of that would be deducted from the rent. Now, if they had a good job and didn't really have time to do something, they could do less and pay the full rent. Or if they were between jobs, they could just pile on the tasks, and then at the end of the month they would pay very little or possibly even no rent at all. And then, and since I would own the house outright, then I basically it wouldn't be a problem because all that stuff would need to be done, and it would have gotten done, and uh, then basically everything would be done, and I would still have enough to pay the property tax and all that good stuff. Now the house, of course, it would probably still generate income due to the roommates and the rent, and then then I would probably start building up a reserve fund for like things like lawnmowers and stuff, or whatever, garden supplies. Now, there could be a secondary system that could be added just in case we wanted to like do some kind of collective food deal, right? Now that would be, then you would have additional tasks like cooking, and then people would probably have to deduct something from their time card if they decide to eat. So that might be something I would add later if the basic system here works. So that would hopefully um, get rid of a lot of the problems that roommates generally have, because cleaning is usually a real downfall in a shared housing situation. So then basically as I grow old and um, and basically start getting less physically capable, I'll have that homestead really kicking by then, so it wouldn't take nearly as much work to make it continue to function and produce. And then, um, and then basically, I could go right into retirement because then, as my physical capabilities decrease, I'll still have some young, energetic people in there to take care of some of those things. And this system here would make it so that you wouldn't really have to depend on people being like really fair-minded and really good people. People are people; they have good and they have bad in them. But if you put numbers to the system like this, um, then it's you don't have to depend on the good nature of other people so much because the numbers don't lie. And it's sort of a mini economic system within the system. Now, some people might say that I want some kind of hippie commune or something, but the thing is, since there would be numbers attached to all the various tasks and benefits of the place, it wouldn't really be a commune, and um, and hippies probably wouldn't really fit into it very well because I would be like bringing them down, man. um, with all those numbers and whatnot. Basically, it would just be for people who um, just are like me, who want to just have a job, have a decent life, and that sort of thing. But since there would be numbers attached to it, it would be a situation where they wouldn't really feel that they were being taken advantage of. It's a business arrangement, and shelter costs money, and and situation, some situations, people might start feeling like they're like not being treated very well or fairly, or the man is ordering them around. But um, if these tasks are actually in the system and they could actually select whatever they wanted to do, that would to decrease the rent at the end of the month. That might just tend to decrease that resentment thing that happens. Now, people aren't really designed or really set up, at least in a homestead environment like what I want, to live by themselves because you leave and then uh, there might be like a raccoon getting into the chickens and you wouldn't be there to stop it, and pretty soon they would all be gone, right? But if you had somebody else there, or better yet, somebody there at all times, that other person or those other people could like grab the pellet gun and shoot the raccoon, that sort of thing. Now, ideally, if it wasn't for the divorce laws and the horrendous child support and imputed income things in our court system, where if you have the court system, they'd say, well, he's making so much money, but if he really tried, he could make X, and then they would charge you child support at that fictitious higher income level. It happens, and and of course I could then lose the entire homestead if I was married and the wife decided she liked somebody else better. It happens a lot, and if you don't plan for that sort of thing, it can really bite you later. So I'm not doing the marriage thing for that reason, although it would probably be a nice way to live. Instead, I'm doing electing to do the roommate thing. So that's about all I got. I think this is just a sketch at currently, and I'm adding little bits of detail that I'm filling in. And every month I'm saving money so that I can eventually buy the place. And so far though, this is, I wouldn't call it a plan, it's sort of a sketch of a plan at this point. So that's all I got. Later.